This is Bruce, and today we are going to see if we can build an application, a cocktail application, using the cocktail database. So let's take a look at the database, cocktail API database. Look here. So we're here in the documents, and I can see if we look here, we can get cocktails by name, by letter, by ID, etc. And there's also a random cocktail. So let's start with that one. So here's the JSON that it returns, and we'll just open up my JSON lint, and let's take a look at what we've got. So we can see here, we've got where is it here? Well, we've got the name of the drink. STR is for strings, so these are all strings, just letting us know what kind of data we're getting here. And then this one's called a piece of ass. Great. And we can see we've got, talks about the glass. It talks about the instructions: pour ice in glass, fill with shots, fill with sour mix. And then it has the ingredients, and we can see the ingredients. This is a weird way of doing it. It's kind of awkward. Certainly, it would be easier if we put these into an array and we could loop through, and then we wouldn't have all these null ingredient things. But I guess he's thinking, or they're thinking, that they can have up to 15 ingredients in a drink and no more. So it's kind of a weird way of doing things. And then we can see they've got the measure. So presumably it's one shot of amaretto, one shot of Southern Comfort, cubes of ice, and then sour mix, whatever that is. And then there's some other information about dates and stuff like that. So what I'm proposing is I create an app. I'm going to call it cocktailAPI, the study of cocktails. And it's going to give us this information taken from the JSON. So the name of the cocktail. We can see that there's also an image available right here. It's escaped, so I can't just copy and paste it, but we'll see that it is available. So most drinks, I think, have an image, the instructions, and the ingredients, all here. The other thing I'm going to be adding that we didn't do in the weather API is a user interface, so to speak, but a button, so that they can refresh the cocktail, get a new random cocktail without having to reload the page. Not that there's a ton on this page, but we can see there. So if I just for interest, I've refreshed this page, and if I take it and paste this, you'll see we do indeed get another drink called the Victor. And then you can see it's gin, sweet vermouth, and brandy. Ooh, that sounds good. Okay, let's get started. So I'm going to flip over here to Visual Studio Code. I'm going to make a folder for my cocktail app called cocktailAPI, similar to what I did for the weather API. Inside that folder, I'm going to make an index file, as always. I'm going to make another folder called JavaScript and another folder called CSS, and that didn't work. Make another folder called CSS in the right place. Inside the CSS, I'm going to make a CSS called Cocktail CSS, and I'm going to also add a reset CSS in a little bit. I'll just copy and paste that from otherwhere so we don't have to worry about it. And I'm going to make a cocktail JavaScript. Console info. And again, we just do this just to make sure that we've got it connected. It's kind of a reminder for me. And I'll just put this here just so we can see it. And I might fast forward some spots because a lot of this is just me typing. Okay. So let's get started. So we can do we can go back. Normally, what I would do is I'd go back and I would literally copy the JavaScript from here and paste it. But for today, just for fun, I can keep this open and we can kind of go back and forth and stuff like that. So I just copy it and then paste it and then change it usually. But let's go and we'll do it this way. So I'm going to create, we'll let URL equal, and we'll come back here, copy that. I could have copied it from the documents, obviously. And then we'll do the async and then function. So we've created an async function, and I'm going to call it fetch random cocktail. And again, I'm using camel case, so the first letter starts with the first word starts with a small letter, and then each additional word starts with a capital letter. It's a good way of naming naming anything, but naming functions in this case. And then we're going to get our response. We're going to create a constant. I guess I could have had the URL as being a constant as well, but I'm thinking, I might change it for other calls, but in this case, we don't have to worry about it. And just like we did for the weather API, we're going to fetch the URL. In this case, it's going to be cocktails. And we're going to convert it to JSON. Oh, wait, not wait. And then we're going to call display, not weather, cocktail. And we're going to pass the data in. In fact, before we do that, we'll do that. Okay. And then we're going to create a, let's call the function. So fetch random cocktail. So it calls it right when it loads, right? So this will go and fetch the data, and we could console log out like here, but let's just go straight to creating the other function. So display cocktail, and we'll put drink here, and I'm going to do something a little bit different just to show you how we can do it. But for now, we'll just make sure that this is working. So console info and drink. And so if I go here and then go to the end and add cocktail API, hopefully it'll load, and it didn't. Maybe I should upload the whole folder. And of course, it's not going to work because I haven't connected anything yet. I haven't actually created my my HTML. Okay, so cocktail API, and then we're going to come in here, and I'm going to add a header. Cocktailology, and then I'm going to add a main where we're going to put all the stuff, and I'm going to worry about the button and stuff later. Put that in. Okay, so let's see if this works now. Oh, that kind of works, and now I'm going to add the script. So we have to actually connect the JS, obviously. Okay. And so here you can see we get an array, or we get a JSON object, and in the JSON object there's a drinks array, and then our random drink is the first element of the array. But what I can do is this time, just to make things easy, there's only one drink. We don't have to move through it or whatever. What I can do is, instead of passing the entire data to the display cocktail, since we don't need it, I can go drink. And then, which is it drink or drinks? Drinks. which is an array. And then because it's an array, obviously we can reference that first element in the array by using square brackets and then the index of 0. So now when we refresh, we should get essentially the same thing, but without having to drop down drinks and without having to drop down the 0 indexed array element. So we go right to the drink. Ta-da! All right. And so now I think possibly for a lot of you, you can essentially draw the owl, or complete probably most of this on your own, except for there's maybe one thing that is might be interesting to look at together, which is how we can do an array here without displaying a bunch of empty spaces for all these null ingredients. So we can do that. So for this next little part, in fact, I'm going to pause the video, and then I'm going to start a new video and record it on high speed, I guess, or I'll record it and then I'll play at high speed and copy some stuff in and things like that, the resets and stuff, so just so you can see me working. But I'm just going to shut up because I'm kind of tired of hearing my voice. I'm sure you are too. Okay, we'll see you in a bit. So if you remember, I said I was going to, obviously do some quick coding and stuff like that. If you have any questions, obviously feel free to ask in the comments or during class or whatever. So the next problem is the list of ingredients and their measures. So what we want to do is we want to loop through every time there's something here, but if it's null, then we don't want to continue to display null or empty elements on our page, right? And so for this, we are going to use a while loop. I think that should work. So essentially, a while loop will look something like this. While and this is just pseudocode. Don't be typing this up. Well, something equals true, then keep doing whatever is in here. Essentially, what we're going to be doing is display next ingredient. So hopefully that makes sense. In order to do this for this one, we still want to iterate through. I mean, I could have used a for loop and just, using this as an excuse to show you guys the while loop, or to show you again the while loop. So what I'm going to do, what we need to do is create an increment, an index. So I'm going to let I equals, is it 0 or 1? It seems to me it's 1, yeah. So I'm going to let I equals 1. Usually it'd be 0, but because of the string index here, I'm going to make it 1. And then in order to get that index, or the string ingredient, I'm going to obviously access drink, and then if you remember, we can't use dot syntax when we're using it in statements like this, or when we're creating a variable, if you will. But the thing is string ingredient, right? So string ingredient followed by a number. So I'm going to make that plus I. So that's going to give me the first time through, number 1, second time through, number 2, etc., etc. And normally I said if it's true, but in this case I'm going to say if it's not null, right? So not, the operator for not is, try and see if you can guess it. I typed it already before doing it, but there you go. Is not null, and null doesn't need to be in quotes because it's a built-in thing like true and false. So this should work. The important thing though, and this is really important to not forget, and so I'm going to do it right away before I do what I need to do, is we need to increment I. Because if we don't increment I, then this is going to continue to be 1, and then this will get into an endless loop that will lead to a stack overflow, and or possibly not, but it'll just make it hard to break out of the site and crash our site and all that kind of bad stuff. So we don't want that to happen. So we want to make sure that we can loop out, and then in here we'll just do console log, and I'm just going to copy that statement here. Be faster than typing it in, and so this should work, and then we'll just do the displays. So if I do refresh, and so you can see here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 without any nulls displaying in the console in this case, right? Otherwise, if we had nulls, then it would pollute our page, or at least it would take up a bunch of room and space and stuff in our page. Okay, so there's the while loop to go through. Now, essentially, we just need to create those elements for the measure and for the ingredient. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to obviously use CSS Grid. So let me create another little section here for the ingredients. So let document create element section, so I can put those in, and I'll use articles. I mean I'm not sure article div would actually probably be okay here, but so let measure Okay. And then we attach those, and then we are going to attach, obviously, the ingredients section to the main as well. So with any luck, this should show up. Ingredient is not defined. Ingredient with a D. And so there you can see we've got our ingredients on our page, and they're listed. Let's just take a look at this section here. Right, so we've got a section, and then we've got the ingredients. But what I would like to do is to put those into a grid. Let me just go back here and do it in my CSS, because I keep on making a mistake. So we're going to do, let me just see what the section name is here. So I've got a main section. Oh, let me give it a name, so make it easier to do. So ingredients section, and then we're going to go ingredients section. ID equals ingredients. And I think I can do that even though I've used ingredients elsewhere. Maybe ingredients. Okay. I should probably name it ingredients section, and then I wouldn't have to worry, but let's double check to see if that worked. And so now you can see we've got an ID of ingredients. So now in our CSS, we can go ingredients as the selector, and then display grid, and then grid template columns. And we can do something like, we can do like 1FR for FR, and that might sometimes work, right? Depending on the size of the page and things like that. But I know from experience, sometimes you'll get pretty big things here. So it'll kind of be a pretty big well, both things really. And then I'm even not sure why. Oh, because the condensed milk. Oh, even if I make it 1 cup. Oh, that's weird. So it's like 1 cup tea. That's the thing that's throwing it off. And then it's there we go. See, this is what I was talking about. So we can see here, right, that we've got 2 tablespoons sweetened. I don't know why they do this instead of sweetened to condensed milk, or 1/2 cup boiling water and 1/2 cup Thai tea. So you can see here, this is the why using the 1FR, right, 1 fraction and then 4 fractions doesn't quite work. It kind of works most of the time, but not all the time. So what I'm going to do is, instead of 1FR, I'm going to use min-max. And here I'm going to put min content and 1FR, I think. Yeah. I'm going to put auto. Min content and auto. And now, it might take us a while to see this, but oh yeah, there you go. 1 part's bitter. If we add it, and then let me just go and add a gap. So now you can see they've done that weird, oh no, 2 parts, okay. No, it's still fine. So let me add a gap of 1.44 rem. There we go. That's a little better. And I'll just copy this back into the CSS. So we've got a nice little gap there, and I'm kind of thinking 1.44 might be a little bit too small. I'll probably refresh it later. Oh, and then, yeah, I think we're good. And I'm just going to change the gap so that it's top and bottom are, no, yeah, left and right are 1.44 rem, or in the middle it's 1.44 rem, but top and bottom are less. And I might even go less on top and bottom than that as well. Let me just see. Oh, and there we go. We got a weird kind of thing going on here. So it's not perfect, but you can see one bottle of Boone Strawberry Hill and then wine over here. So we've got like kind of this weird thing. It's tried to make it without getting rid of everything here, but I think for a lot of them it's going to look pretty nice. I think for most of them, yeah, even here 1/5 of Smirnoff Red Label and then vodka on the other one. So you can see there's some weird things going on still, but we're kind of getting there. I certainly could make this a little bit smaller. So there's some CSS stuff, and I think are we done? I think we're pretty much done. Oh no, we're not quite done. The other thing I'm just remembering is we said we have to create a button in order that we can go and get refresh the page or refresh the cocktail, get a new random cocktail without having to refresh the page. So let's go back here and create that button. So I'm going to create another little section and put an A in there, and in here I'm just going to put a link and then find your cocktail. I should put like study your cocktail, learn your cocktail, something like that, because it's cocktailology. So we're going to find your cocktail, and then now I'm going to add an event handler for that button, and then that button's going to essentially call the fetch random cocktail thing. All right. So there's going to be a couple little things we're going to have to do. So let's come down here, and I'm going to let refresh, could have called it random maybe, equal document query selector. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna change this around a little bit, right? Because really, this is our call to action section. So I'm gonna make like literally call it call to action or CTA, right? There we go. So now we've got, this makes a lot more sense and is kind of in line with other coding that I'll do. So then here, what I want to call is the CTA and the anchor or the link tag inside that CTA. Okay, so now we've got that. We can add an event listener to it. So refresh, add event listener. It's going to be on click, and then on click, you know what? I'm going to use I'll use arrow functions because I mean, normally I could just call a function here like like fetch random cocktail, something like that, and then that would go up and fetch the random cocktail. But because it's coming from an event and we have to cancel the event so as not to reload the page. Anyway, there's some good reasons why we don't want to do this directly. And the reason is when you click on a link that's empty, you have to prevent the default, which is reloading the page or going to that space on the page and going to the top and stuff like that. We don't want to do that. We just want to refresh the actual cocktail display calling fetch rather than refresh the entire page. Hopefully that makes sense. I can show you guys in class if you want. Okay, so in order to create an arrow function, first of all, as I said, I want to capture the event. And then for an arrow, we create this little thing that looks like an arrow. Then we can create our function or the commands for our function inside the curly braces. And then notice this might look a little bit weird to you if you haven't done curly functions and stuff like that. But we can see here, this is the closing for this add event listener method that opens here. And then the actual event is a click event. And then we're using an arrow function to create this function. So if we just do console log, Actually, we'll do console info. I don't know if you guys have noticed I've been using that. And I'll show you actually here what I mean by the event. So we'll come in here, back to here, and we should see in the console, did I upload this? Maybe I didn't save it. CTA A. Okay. And then, oh, I think I just didn't save it or whatever. So find your cocktail. So if I click on that, right, the button, doesn't look like a button yet, but it will, then you can see we've got this pointer event. And then in this pointer event, there's a whole bunch of stuff. Probably the one we'll use most is target. And then in the target, then we can get all sorts of information in there. But we can do a whole bunch of stuff with that. But the first thing I'd like to do though, is to cancel or prevent that default, as I said. So event, prevent default, and then that'll stop it from doing what would normally happen with a link, which is go to another page or another place. And now we can fetch the random cocktail thing here, and it should recall the page, or not recall the page, but it should recall the fetch and load another cocktail. Whoops, I keep loading down below. Okay, so let's just get rid of the, so we're creating the main, we're doing the drink. So here what we want to do is we want to set main back to having nothing in it. So I'm just going to take the inner HTML and make it, set it back to nothing. And now when we load, ooh, vodka Russian. And now when we reload, you can see it reloads it into the same place. And you can see there's not a flash of the cocktailology, so it's not reloading. Okay. So a little bit of CSS now, just for that button. So if I just go CTA, and then I'm going to go text align. We're going to put the button in the center. And then in the actual button itself, CTA A. So what do I want to do? I want to let me create a border. So this will make it look like a button a little bit. So I'm using the shorthand, not short form, not shortcut, solid. We'll make it 1 pixel, and I'm going to make it my RGB, and it'll be 240, 240, 240, 0. And then I don't know, like 0.25 alpha, so 25% alpha. We'll try that and see how that works, or how that looks. Okay, not bad. Let's add some padding to it. So we'll do that. For now, we'll do the same thing as here. See how that looks? Padding. So top and bottom will be a little bit, and then this will be a lot of it. Kind of getting there. Kind of getting there. All crunched up together, but we'll space that out in a second. Let's round it. So border radius. What should I put? What should I put? Let's put 2.448 rem. Oh, not bad, not bad. So next on CTA, I'm just going to create a little bit of padding here too. So 1.44 rem. Yeah, it's getting there. Let's get rid of the underline. Text decoration, none. And let's create a hover. I think I'm going to do it the other way around. I'm going to do it this way. And then here, because I want to create a hierarchy, and I want this to stand out a bit more, I think. I like the idea of this standing out, the instructions. I'd have to play with my stuff a little bit here, but we're getting there. But I do want this to stand out just a little bit more. So I'm going to choose a different background color for it. Did I save this? And I think against the dark gray here, like a green might stand out, like something like this. Obviously, I'm going to have to change the font color. And against that green, let me just put the color as white. Yeah, that looks pretty good actually. So I'm just going to go do my 240 thing. Okay. And then here for the background color hover. Yeah, it's not bad. Okay. So now I've got a little button that makes it stand out, and now you can CTA, so A visited, and CTA A link. There, you can see when it gets focused. So I'm just tabbing into it and out, and so you can see when it gets focused, it hovers as well. Okay, so just to review, we did the same asynchronous fetch function, converted it to JSON, and then we went through and we created a display cocktail function or display function where we created all the elements, sections and figures and stuff like that, and then displayed them in on the main page, right? In order to select that main element on the page, right? So literally the main element. We created a query selector to main, and then we used, in this case, append instead of using append child. And then instead of having all these append childs, we could just do one append. Makes it nice and easy and clean and stuff like that. And it also has a bit of a performance benefit in the sense that instead of writing things to the page as you're going, and then rewriting and then rewriting and then rewriting, we just do it all in one fell swoop, so to speak. There's some things that we could obviously fix this up a little bit in terms of lazy loading and right, there's a bit of a jankiness when we load the image. We could set apart some space for it and stuff, but we won't worry about that for right now. But there's definitely some ways of making it smooth. Okay, so to come back, we've got our display cocktail, we create our elements, we add the content to the elements, and then we append them to the page, essentially. And then the other thing here that's a little bit, I guess, new for us is to use a while loop, because we have that awkward way that they do the ingredients where we're not sure how many ingredients are, so they've created 15 I guess rows in their table or objects in the JSON, and so we don't know how many there are, so we have to keep looping through until we find one that's null, and then we want to stop looping through. We don't have to loop through all 15 and then kind of get rid of them afterwards. So we're being very efficient with this. So in order to do that, I'm saying only while the ingredient or the string ingredient is not null do we keep on doing our loop. And then, of course, in here, we're doing exactly the same as what we're doing above, which is displaying the measure for the drink, so how much to put, and the ingredient to put. Um, After that, we created a button. So in this case, because the buttons should always be there, etc., I've just done it directly onto the into the HTML, which is always an option. I could have built the whole structure and then had multiple query selectors and done it that way rather than create all the elements. But here we are. So I'm creating an object called refresh. Based on a query selector of that link inside the call to action section. And then I'm adding an event listener called click, and then I'm using an arrow function to add the events. In this case, the two important things, we don't need the console anymore. The two most important things are to prevent the default reload when you click a link, and then also to call the same fetch random cocktail function. That's the asynchronous function that we start with. And so you can see the overall effect. And again, this is just, I've only done um, the mobile version. I might make this a little bit smaller just to get a little bit more fix. But you can see here, we click and it links, and there's that kind of delay for the loading of the drink. I think I would probably put a placeholder there so it would we would get rid of that delay. So I hope this helps, and enjoy making your own API, and even more importantly, your own cocktails.